Sugar, spice, and everything nice. These were the ingredients chosen to create the perfect little girl. But Professor Utonium accidentally stood precariously next to a giant glass container of Chemical X, only for his chimpanzee sidekick to have a tantrum and push him into said container that made the black ooze fall into the concoction. And thus, the Powerpuff Girls were born, using their ultra superpowers. Okay, that's cool and all, but what if the story was that, but different? Hello everyone, my name's Ayla Bell, and I absolutely loved the Powerpuff Girls when I was younger. Heck, I still do. It was such a charming show and concept, and I had nothing but fun with it. And by Powerpuff Girls, I mean the original 1998 cartoon, not the 2016 reboot, and certainly not the concept of the live-action CW show. And if you want my thoughts on that, check out the card in the upper right. Since I already gave my initial thoughts of the Powerpuff Girls in that video, you can go ahead and consider this video a part 2, as I will now be discussing a Powerpuff Girls reimagining that already exists, and which I think did a great job taking the Powerpuff Girls and putting them into a different world and genre and having fun with it while respecting the original. They're here, Powerpuff Girls Z. Otherwise known as Powerpuff Girls Z, is a 2006 magical girl anime based off the Powerpuff Girls and has 52 episodes. It also has a manga adaptation, which I only found out exists a few days ago, and has a different main villain, and by extension, a different overarching plot. Probably, most likely, compared to the anime. But in this case, the anime came first, and it's the one I've actually watched, so that's what I'll be talking about. The general plot of the show is that Professor Utonium and his young son, Ken, yes, his son, we'll get to that later, work in a lab doing sciencey things. They have Chemical X on hand, but due to shenanigans that involved an unauthorized ingredient being added to the Chemical X, the Chemical X turns into Chemical Z. In trying to save the city, called Tokyo City in the sub and New Townsville in the dub, Ken shoots a beam of Chemical Z at a giant iceberg. The iceberg gets destroyed, but what results are black and white rays of light that fall into different places throughout the city. 3 of the white rays hit 3 teenage girls, Mamako Akatsutsumi, Miyako Gotokuji, and Kaoru Matsubara. Yes, they have different last names. We'll get to that later as well. And it transforms them into Hyper Blossom, Rolling Bubbles, and Powered Buttercup respectively, forming the Powerpuff Girls Z. For the sake of ease and for recognizability, I'll be calling the girls by their American names of Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup instead of their Japanese names. The dub does this as well, so I feel less bad about it. The black rays of light engulf other people and creatures, turning them into familiar villains such as Mojo Jojo, Fuzzy Lumpkins, Sedusa, the Gang Green Gang, Princess Morbucks, etc. The Powerpuff Girls take it upon themselves to use their new powers to defeat the villains, protect the city, and unravel ancient mysteries, all while learning to be a team and balancing their civilian lives. Now, I'm sure you guys have already picked up on this, but there are noticeable differences between the original Powerpuff Girls and Powerpuff Girls Z. Before I tell you what they are, keep in mind 2 things. 1, there might be mild spoilers in this review. I tried to keep it spoiler free, but something might accidentally slip, and if it does slip, I promise you it is mild and you won't get any big humongous plot points. I'll do my best, guys. I will do my best. And 2, do not go into Powerpuff Girls Z expecting it to just be an anime adaptation of the Powerpuff Girls. It isn't. It is a reimagining. This means that liberties were taken and the anime is a spin on the original idea. If you go into Powerpuff Girls Z expecting it to be just an anime Powerpuff Girls, then you will be super disappointed. I've come across too many people who don't like Powerpuff Girls Z simply because it's not exactly the same as Powerpuff Girls. Like I said in my last Powerpuff Girls video, it's okay for reimaginings to be different as long as the writing is competent and there is a noticeable respect and understanding of the original series. So, do we all understand that? Okay, here are the notable differences between Powerpuff Girls and Powerpuff Girls Z. Number 1, Professor Utonium has only 1 child and it's none of the Powerpuff Girls. Yes, Ken is his biological son, and Professor Utonium used to have a wife that sadly passed away. The Utonium family didn't meet Blossom, Bubbles, or Buttercup until the iceberg incident. Number 2, The Powerpuff Girls aren't related. They had never even spoken before they got their powers. They're all in the same class at school, or they eventually end up in the same class. So at the very least, they went to the same school. But we're all into totally different things that they never interacted. Number 3. Most of the villains in the show either get their powers or become villains because of the black rays that hit them, or because him turned them into villains. Number 4. Anime Blossom has a totally different personality than Cartoon Blossom. Anime Blossom is more stereotypical shoujo magical girl protagonist in that she is boy crazy, loves sweets, and can be a bit ditzy and whiny. Regardless of the differences between her and her American counterpart, she is still reliable and is a good and supportive friend. Number 5. The Powerpuff Girls Z are much weaker than the original Powerpuff Girls. For sure, if the Powerpuff Girls Z ever had to fight the Powerpuff Girls, they would lose. They would lose 1,000 times over. They do have super strength and can fly, but if you watch the show and see their feats, you'll see that they aren't as physically strong. The Powerpuff Girls Z also have less powers than the Powerpuff Girls. The Powerpuff Girls are basically kindergarten girl versions of Superman, whereas the Powerpuff Girls Z have mild super strength, can fly, and have individualized weapons. Blossom has a yo-yo, Bubbles a giant bubble wand that shoots weaponized bubbles, and Buttercup has a giant hammer. And speaking of powers, number 6. The Powerpuff Girls Z only have powers when they are transformed, unlike the original Powerpuff Girls who have their powers all the time. On a similar note, the girls' identities as the Powerpuff Girls are a secret. The only people who know their identities are Professor Utonium, Ken, the mayor, Miss Bellum, and I think Miss Keen at some point. I think. Number 7. Bubbles is actually the most mature member of the group. She can definitely be a bit of an airhead, but she is the most emotionally mature compared to Blossom and Buttercup. She still shares a lot of traits with original Bubbles with her bubbliness and sweetie pie attitude, but she takes the baton from original Blossom in that she takes the helm as the most mature. Number 8. This one's obvious, but the girls are teenagers, 13-year-olds, and not kindergartners. The girls also have normal body proportions. In other words, no big, humongous bug eyes or stubby hands and feet. Number 10. While the show is mainly episodic like the original show, there is sort of an overarching plot, in that you need to see certain episodes in order to understand things that are happening down the line. Most of the episodes, like I said, are episodic and have a Monster of the Week format, but the plot pokes its head in every now and then. The plot gets thicker and more concentrated near the end of the series, so you'll see what I mean. There are a few other details that are different, but they're fun differences, as they take an idea from the original Powerpuff Girls and do something unique with it. Of course, Powerpuff Girls Z is its own thing, so not absolutely everything is inspired by the original show. It does have some original ideas and original monsters and stuff to fight, so it's fun just to see that in itself. So I'm not going to list every single last one of the differences between Powerpuff Girls and Powerpuff Girls Z, so I recommend watching Powerpuff Girls Z so you can see them for yourself.
Wow, Aloe, those are a lot of differences. Do the shows have anything in common?
Why yes, random commenter, they do. Let's talk about them. Number 1. It's still the Powerpuff Girls. It's still red-haired, self-proclaimed leader who makes the plays and calls the shots, Blossom. It's still blonde, pigtailed, pure of heart, animal-loving, octi-having Bubbles. And it's still dark-haired, tomboy, hardcore, awkward with showing her emotions, Buttercup. They have to balance their superhero lives with their civilian and school lives, just like the original Powerpuff Girls. The mayor still uses a hotline to get into contact with them. Number 2. Cerebellum's face is still hidden, as it should be. And yes, Cerebellum is still more competent than the mayor, and she is essentially the brains behind the government decisions. Number 3. Miss Keen is, or becomes, the girls' teacher. Number 4. The major villains of the show are the major villains of the American show. Number 5. The girls and Utoniums might not be biologically related, but they are still a family and that they all care about each other. Number 6. Him is still the biggest bad and the most powerful villain, just like in the original series. Number 7. Yes, the Rowdy Rough Boys are here too. However, they are younger than the Powerpuff Girls. Number 8. Both shows are fairly lighthearted with the occasional serious moments and scenes. Regardless of the differences and similarities, it is my personal opinion that Powerpuff Girls Z does a good job at keeping the spirit of the original. It's kind of hard to explain, but unlike the CW Powerpuff Girls, which kind of attacks the original Powerpuff Girls point blank in a mean-spirited way, at least going off the leaked script, Powerpuff Girls Z respects the original Powerpuff Girls and has fun with the ideas of the original. It comes off as someone who knows and appreciates the original and is just having fun putting these characters in unique situations while keeping the core of the show intact. I would once again like to reiterate that it's not because the CW's Powerpuff Girls is dark, edgy, and dreary that makes it bad. It's the specific choices made in the script and the writing that makes it bad. Powerpuff Girls can have a dark and edgy story if it's told correctly. This just isn't it. Likewise, Powerpuff Girls Z could have easily gone wrong. Just because it's bright, colorful, and cute doesn't by itself make it good. It's just, to me, personally, I think it has a respect for the original Powerpuff Girls, and in general, I just had a good time with it. Did I like the show because it was the Powerpuff Girls but in a different medium and with fun changes? Or did I like the show as its own entity? I don't think I'll ever be able to answer that. I went into Powerpuff Girls with a bias towards the original Powerpuff Girls, and as I also love anime, Powerpuff Girls Z just kind of seemed like an automatic win to me. It probably does have its problems, but I don't care about them. I just want to be entertained, and I was entertained. And so here I am, talking about it, sharing my experience with all of you. I also know that some people legitimately do not like the Powerpuff Girls Z and have critiques other than it's not the same as the original. Those people might not agree with me about the show having the spirit of the original, and that's fine. You don't have to agree. This is just my take on things. I wish I could better define what I mean by Powerpuff Girls Z has the spirit of the original, but I don't know. I think it's something more that you feel than something you quantify, I think. You just know, you know? Anyway, let's talk more about Powerpuff Girls Z. Powerpuff Girls Z does have an English dub. When I first discovered Powerpuff Girls Z, I watched the sub, and that was cool. I only watched a few episodes though, I didn't actually get through the whole series. But when I came back to watch the entire series 2 or 3 years ago, I watched the dub. And yes, I'm one of those anime fans who prefer dubs. I can watch sub, I just prefer to invest less effort into my viewings. Anyway, I enjoyed the dub. My only complaint is that the official dub doesn't use the Japanese music, like, almost at all from what I remember. And it especially doesn't use the Japanese intro or outro, and instead uses this short, lame, lack of singing intro. You can find versions of the dub where it was edited with the Japanese intro and outro. Just keep in mind it wasn't originally like that. The first intro, Kibo no Kakera, is, I think, the best song of the series and brings the hype every time I listen to it. The songs used for the transformation sequences are also really cool, and it bums me out that they weren't used in the English dub. And as far as openers go, I think the second opener, Jig the Upper, is a cool song, but doesn't work as an intro song. It just sounds like a casual song you hear on the radio. It doesn't exactly sound extreme, or the Powerpuff Girls are about to go into action like Kibo no Kakera does. The style of Powerpuff Girls Z is cute, and I like the redesigns of all of the original characters. The Powerpuff Girls themselves are less alien looking and have more human proportions. They do still sort of have their traditional big, round, colorful eyes that help them to stand out from everyone, but it's drawn in such a way that they don't stand out too dramatically like they do in the original. As a magical girl show, and one from the early 2000s at that, it does have recycled animation, which is used for the transformation sequences as well as some attacks. However, I think it's worth pointing out that while some of the attacks do use recycled animation, many, if not most, if my memory serves me correctly, most of the attacks aren't reusing recycled animation, and the animation fits for whatever is happening in the context of the scene. It's also cool that while Bubbles and Buttercup have the same list of attacks they use every episode, Blossom is unique in that she renames her attack in each episode, showing how indecisive she can be. I don't remember if they kept that trait of hers in the dub, but that's definitely something from the original Japanese. So in the end, having said all of that, hopefully this jumbled mess of a review can entice you to at least check out Powerpuff Girls Z. If you're interested in watching it, and I do recommend it, then I'm pretty sure you can watch the whole series on YouTube. The dub I know is on YouTube, and I believe that's where I watched the whole thing. 52 episodes really isn't a lot, and to me, it didn't even feel like it was that many. I was too busy enjoying the ride. I'm super glad that I got to share my experience with this anime with all of you. What do you guys think of Powerpuff Girls Z? Would you consider watching it? Have you already seen it? Do you like it? Comment below and let's get this conversation started. As for now, that's all there is. There isn't any more.